Good afternoon, Maverick traders. It's the 25th of May. It's Thursday. Joe with you here once again. Let's get into a market roundup. Take responsibility for whatever you get from these courses. You guys know the deal. Very specific. This one is specific to tech. It's NVIDIA. NVIDIA has been a darling for a while. It's been the leader in AI. It had some numbers and beat them. Didn't fall apart. How do we finish? The Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ. Let's take a look at it. The Dow actually was flat. The S&P down, just up slightly, just shy of 1%. The NASDAQ posting almost 1.75%. The Russell's down 0.75%. Oil down and gold down. This was a continuation of a sell-off across the majority of all the majors, save one, and that is definitely in the tech side. Let's get to the daily news here, guys. It's AI is the must-have and main component to the last bullish surge that we've seen since the beginning of the year. Take a look here, folks, at a 3-month sector analysis. It is only one thing that's leading the way, and it has been since almost the beginning of this year, and that's not going to change anytime soon because that's where the money wants to go, which is totally fine. Even today, folks, let's take a look at today's action. It's one stock, it's one sector, it's one idea. Back to the news here. Debt ceiling continues to be the focus of everything else outside of the tech because tech's its own anomaly. We'll get to the charts here in a second. I did see GDP and initial jobs claims both showing signs of bullishness. Now, it was a revision of the GDP, and the initial jobless claims came in lighter than expected, which both to me says soft landing. It doesn't say that, oh, geez, the Fed didn't get ahead of it. We're in inflationary problems. That can raise its head. Maybe they were wrong. But for now, it's simply just that we're looking at a soft landing. I would like to see those numbers subside, but they're actually increasing, which maybe there is a problem, but we'll talk about that if it happens. Advanced decline line, take a look at this, folks. 66% declining, 31% advancing. However, we had such a green day, you wouldn't expect that. Also, above and below the 50-day moving average, 64% below the moving average, 36% above. Absolutely thinking it would be a bearish day, and it was absolutely not. So it is a very select few that is moving these markets. Let's take a look at the SPY. I'm going to give it to it because the SPY actually finished above moving averages. This is back in my realm of +1 category. I was waiting for this to retest support levels. It went a little lower than I expected. We talked a lot about this. Corey mentioned this quite a bit with the cup and handle. But to tell you the truth, based on today, it's held in there. This is like a cup with a little bit of an let's say an over ceramic side, right? We'd like to see this move a little higher, maybe pull back and hit this 420 as support. It went a little deeper, but it is actually moving to the right side, especially with today's action, a little higher. Now, it's not gangbusters, folks. I'm not +2 on this at all, but it is a positive sign. Let's take a look at the Qs if we have to, because it is it's an anomaly when it comes to the overall markets. We have a beautiful trend that we've seen for a while. We knew it was going to come. We've got a parabolic move on the 20-day moving average, a parabolic move on the 50-day moving average. And what I mean by that, folks, let me get rid of my markers, is the price action is not retesting either. The price action has stayed well above both. Even with this little pullback that we saw into last week, it's still above both. It's just extending. We talk a lot about a blow off top. These are absolutely the signs. Today's volume, nothing too significant saying that there's a huge mass run to get into it, but it does pose the argument for overextension. That's it. Are you going to short this? Please don't. Is it the end of all ends? No, it's not. These markets could sustain this level for quite some time. Now let's get to what's caused things. Obviously, tech. So overall, folks, based on what I have in front of me, I've got a bullish move that broke out last week, pulled back a little bit lower than I wanted it to, but we're still within that cup and handle range after a little bit of a hiccup, especially with today's action. I'm definitely a +1 on the weekly outlook and at least a +1 on the monthly outlook. I might change that if we continue higher towards the resistance of that 420, 425 number. And it's obvious. high base, consolidation, pullback, retest above the averages, above the 20, above the 50. The 20-50 slope is back in play. I got to play this glass half full, folks, and you should as well. Now, for my bears out there, I understand. I go through all of these charts, and if you're not into big tech and anything with to do with AI, you're going to find everything that's kind of sideways or pulling back or starting to break down. It's great, because if you are playing those things bearish, they're working. They're working. That's why I love my Wednesday class, is because it proves this. Let's take a look at a few, by the way. Toll Brothers, Eli Lilly, W and DAL, both beautiful in the sideways. We've had Wayfair W for about, 4 weeks now sideways, and it has been great. Bear side, I'm just seeing more and more and more. In fact, one of these Intel, right? Intel you would not expect, but it's kind of fallen off the bandwagon. You got to get on the wagon or you don't. And it's got no AI component, and so it's being abandoned. So let's take a look at Toll Brothers for the first. Here's Toll Brothers. New home sales through the roof. Huge uptick. Whether or not it's being financed or not, we're seeing new homes being purchased. So this has a nice move to the upside. Blow off top? Sure. We've got all sorts of things you can talk about here because of the volume. Look at this volume. Huge move. It was earnings, absolutely. Let's see what it can do over the next subsequent days. Right? Let's see what Toll Brothers can do once it's up here now. Does it sustain here and move higher? Is it just kind of a surge to the upside and hey, you're one and done, we're going to start to pull back to this moving average? It just depends on where it wants to go from there. It could present opportunities to buy, but let's make sure that we don't try to chase this thing after it moved higher. Let's move to Eli Lilly. This is something that's been on our bull watch for a while. It's not jumping off the page for me, but it is holding in there. The 420 level is something I'm a little bit more focused on. It is a pretty large, I'm going to call this defensive. I know it's a healthcare. It's in the drug manufacturing, so on and so forth, but it's so big, it's almost a staple. So if this can sustain itself above that 420, maybe above that 20-day moving average, I'm fine playing this sideways to up. It doesn't need to necessarily be as bullish as maybe the chart looks. On the sideways side, this is Wayfair. This thing has just been killing it since we've been talking about it here, folks. Great work. I love the fact that this keeps coming back up on my Wednesday class, stuck to this 35 level. We did have a little bit of a hiccup here at the beginning of May, but we did identify a support level and a resistance level based on some of these things that we saw in the past. So you guys that sat through this and stuck to that 35 level, it's right at it, and it's still right at it. So great work, and I still like it moving forward. If it's not going to change, don't let it change. Now this is Delta Airlines. This was brought up, I believe, yesterday, and there's a couple things about this that I wanted to address. The first is we do have a resistance area here at about 36, and we do have a channel here at 33. It is definitely up there. Today's candle is a little bit more panic-inducing if you're a sideways trader, but it has yet to break above that 36 level. So let's be patient. If you've got something sideways on it, let it go. The crossover of the 20-50 shows that, yeah, there's a little bit of a strength in this last move, but it's still well below some of these resistance levels and still in its bear trend. So sideways makes total sense to me in Delta. Here's Intel. Intel just failed to participate, plain and simple. You're not part of it. You're not part of the AI movement, or you didn't say the things that in your earnings report. Well, guess what? You got punished for it. Maybe people are jumping out of this and moving into other things. Well, let's see. A chip maker that everybody wants to be into? NVIDIA, right? Shocker. How about AMD, who backdoored into, oh, yeah, by the way, we're building an AI component. We're going to start our own, and we're going to address another one. Intel's one that did not do that, and I think it's being punished for it. Take a look at the size of the volume today based on NVIDIA's news. But once again, Intel is definitely out of favor. Something to play on the bear side. Philip Morris, we've been kicking around for quite a while. We talked about this at a few different levels here. We talked about it as a descending triangle back at this level as it breaks. We talked about another descending triangle continuation at this level as it breaks. A retracement back up to the 94 as it breaks. Target of 90 makes total sense here. I still think it's weak. I still think it's going to go lower. I still think everything's out of favor on this. Don't get too aggressive if you're a little bit worried about what tech's going to do and if it will lift the markets, right? A rising tide raises all boats. I don't think that's going to be very applicable in these markets. It is very, I'm seeing stuff that's super specific. I'm sure you guys are too when it comes to what's being purchased and what's being sold. Easy enough roundup here. AI is the main driver of most of the bullish moves. It has been since the beginning, or the last 3 months, and it was absolutely for today because of NVIDIA. Outside of that, we're left to divulge, okay, SPY and the diamonds, what's going on, worries the debt ceiling continues everywhere else. We got the PCE tomorrow, bullishness in some of the numbers out there. I'm seeing a little bit more, I would say, optimism than maybe the Fed wants to see when it comes to some of those numbers. What they're going to do about it is up to them. Earnings reports, just check your potential trades. I really don't think earnings are going to be that big of a driver anymore based on the reaction that I saw with NVIDIA's numbers and this surge into AI. Thanks for joining me, folks. If you have any questions, reach out to us, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.